The moment I told my boss the new feature had crossed $400,000 in monthly recurring revenue, the room went quiet in a way that felt wrong. I'm Emma. I was the product lead on the platform. Everyone in that meeting pretended they understood. I finished my sentence, waiting for the usual response, congratulations. Maybe a forced smile, but none of that came. My boss, Richard, leaned back in his chair and said, "Who controls access?" I blinked. "Access to what? The core system," he replied. "Voice even. Who can change it without approval?" There were people in that room who had reviewed my work for months. No one spoke, I said, carefully. "I do. It's part of my role." Richard nodded once. Not approval, more like confirmation. "Good to know." The meeting ended 10 minutes early. As we stood up, one of my teammates whispered, "That was weird," and I laughed it off. Startups get tense around growth. That's what I told myself on the way back to my desk. That's what I told myself when Richard didn't respond to my follow-up email. The story you're about to hear is a fictional work created by the writing team at Revenge AITA. While inspired by real workplace dynamics and power struggles many professionals face, all characters, companies, and events are fictional. This story explores control, ownership, and the moment a person realizes their value was never tied to permission. The next morning, I walked into the office and stopped cold. My desk was empty. No laptop, no notebook, no badge. Just a single envelope placed dead center. Like someone wanted to be sure I saw it before anything else. I opened it standing up. Inside was a termination letter with my name printed cleanly at the top. Effective immediately, below it, a handwritten note in Richard's sharp, familiar script. "I've invested too much in you. I have the right to take this back." I stood there while coworkers avoided my eyes. My phone buzzed once. Access revoked, email gone, calendar wiped. I didn't say anything. I didn't argue. I just folded the letter slowly, because in that moment, I understood something Richard didn't. He thought he had taken everything. The email from Human Resources arrived before I reached the elevator. "Asset recovery is now in process." It read, "Please confirm that all company property has been returned." I stared at the screen, then looked down at my empty hands. I typed back. My desk was cleared before I arrived. The reply came almost instantly. Noted. I folded the termination letter again, slower this time, and slipped it into my bag. As I turned the corner, Richard stepped out of his office like he had been waiting for me. "Emma," he said, lowering his voice, "let's keep this professional." "Professional." I held up the envelope. "You wiped my access before speaking to me." He sighed. The kind of sigh meant to sound patient. "You're taking this personally." "You fired me overnight. We made a decision," he corrected. "You were becoming complicated." I laughed once, sharp and humorless. Complicated because the product worked. He leaned closer. "Because you forgot who made that possible." "I built it," I said. "You were paid to build it," he replied. "We invested in you, training, resources, trust." He gestured vaguely down the hallway. "That feature didn't happen in a vacuum." "My name is on the architecture," I said. "You approved every design, and I gave you the authority," he snapped. Then he caught himself and softened his tone. "That's my point. Authority comes from us." I watched his face as he spoke, the confidence of someone who had rehearsed this conversation. "You should be grateful," he continued. "Most people don't get to work on something this big." Grateful. The word landed like a slap. "You took my laptop," I said. "You locked me out without notice." "Company property," he said. "Company systems." "My work isn't a leash," I replied. His jaw tightened. "Careful." That was when it clicked. The meeting yesterday, the question about access, the silence afterward. This wasn't a reaction, it was a plan. Richard straightened his jacket. "We'll take it from here." I met his eyes and said nothing. Anger burned hot in my chest, but I kept it contained. He wanted me emotional. Unstable? Wrong. As he walked away, I realized he truly believed he owned what I had built, and that belief was about to cost him far more than he understood. I didn't cry when I got home. I didn't pace or call anyone. I sat at my kitchen table, opened my laptop, and read the termination terms line by line. Access to company systems has been transferred to management. The document said, transferred, not revoked, not disabled, transferred. I opened my email backup. The one I had set up months ago after a late-night conversation with our security lead. He had laughed when I told him I liked redundancy. Paranoia keeps systems alive, he'd said. I scrolled through the permissions list Richard had signed off on: reporting access, dashboard visibility, read-only analytics. That was it. My phone buzzed. A text from Maya, one of the engineers. They locked us out of the deploy pipeline, she wrote. Do you know what's going on? I stared at the message, then typed back, I don't work there anymore. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Wait. What? I set the phone face down and leaned back. A memory surfaced, sharp and clear. Why are there 2 dashboards? Richard had asked during a review weeks earlier. I had kept my tone neutral. One shows performance metrics, the other controls system behavior, and both are necessary. One is for visibility, I said. One is for stability. He had frowned. Seems redundant. It's deliberate, I replied. Different audiences need different access. He nodded like he understood. He didn't ask another question, now. Sitting alone, I logged into my personal credentials. Everything responded exactly as it should. No alarms, no warnings, no changes. They hadn't touched the core routing. They hadn't taken the scaling logic. They hadn't even realized there was a separation. Richard had taken the dashboard, the one designed to look important, the one executives loved because it gave them numbers and charts and the illusion of control. I opened a system log and watched activity scroll by. New attempts, failed handoffs, confusion spreading quietly through layers. No one else knew how to read. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Richard. Can you confirm something for me? His message read. There's an issue with the reporting view. I didn't reply. For the first time since that meeting, my breathing slowed, the panic drained out, replaced by something steady and cold. He thought he had taken access. What he had actually taken was the decoy. I logged in one last time using my personal administrator credentials, not to change anything, not to move files or shut systems down, just to leave. My phone rang while the screen loaded. It was Maya again. Emma, she said, voice tight. They're asking for you in the war room. I don't work there, I replied. There was a pause. They said you still have access. I have my access, I said calmly. That's not the same thing, she exhaled. They're saying you're blocking them. I haven't touched anything. I said, check the logs. Silence. Then, quieter. They're pulling them up now. I navigated to the credential panel and selected my name. The permissions list glowed back at me, exactly as it had for months. Full routing authority, deployment override, emergency rollback. I clicked log out. The system asked for confirmation. I confirmed. That was it. No alarms, no errors, no dramatic shutdown. The platform kept running, just as it had before. I sat there for a moment, hands still, waiting for the spike of guilt people always warned about. It never came. I didn't delete anything, I said aloud. Though no one was there to hear it, I didn't take anything. My phone buzzed again, a new number this time. Emma, this is legal, a man said, brisk but cautious. We need to understand what actions you've taken since termination. I logged out. I said, did you alter any data? No. Disable any systems? No. Remove access for others? I removed myself. He paused. We're reviewing the audit trail. You'll find it clean, I said, because it is. The call ended without a response. I opened the activity log on my own screen and watched the entries scroll. My logout. Time stamped. Verified. No deletions, no modifications. I wasn't the system. I was the one holding it together. Another message came through, this time from Richard. Something isn't right, he wrote. We need you to clarify. I closed the laptop without replying. I had done nothing wrong, and somehow, that was exactly what was about to expose everything. The first message came just after noon. It was from Maya again. Deployments are stuck. She wrote, nothing's failing, nothing's moving either. I stared at the screen and set my phone down without answering. An hour later, another name lit up. Jordan from support. Do you still have time to look at a few tickets? He asked. We've got a backlog forming. I'm not on the team, I replied. 3 dots appeared, then vanished, then appeared again. They said you might still help. He wrote, they shouldn't have said that. A few minutes passed. Then my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number. Emma, it's Richard, my former boss said. He sounded annoyed, not panicked. There's some confusion internally. There isn't, I said. Our dashboard shows everything is stable. That dashboard only shows what it's meant to show. He lowered his voice. We just need a quick clarification, a few minutes. Off the record, I'm no longer employed, I said. I can't advise. This is about the company, he snapped. About what you built. What I built is still running, I said. You have access to the reports, he corrected. That's what you asked for. He went quiet, then said, Support is overwhelmed. Then staff support, I replied. You're being difficult, I'm being precise. He exhaled sharply. You know how this looks. I know exactly how it looks, I said. You took control, use it. I ended the call before he could respond. Later that afternoon, Maya texted again. Clients are asking why nothing new is shipping. I typed, deleted, then typed again. They approved the process, I wrote. They didn't approve the handoff. I set the phone aside and didn't touch it again. From the outside, everything still looked fine. The revenue chart climbed like it always had. The numbers stayed steady. The interface smiled back, clean and reassuring. Inside, nothing moved, no errors, no alerts, just silence spreading. One unanswered message at a time. Richard called just after dinner. I let it ring twice before answering. Hello, Emma, he said. Like we were picking up a meeting that had paused instead of a career he'd ended. Good. You're available. I answered the phone. I said, that's all. He ignored that. There's some friction internally. Nothing serious. We just need you to walk us through a few things. I'm not employed, I replied. This wouldn't be official, he said quickly. Just a conversation. 10 minutes. You fired me without one. I said, you can manage without one now. He laughed, short and controlled. You're being dramatic. I'm being accurate. A breath on the other end. Emma, listen. You built something important here. Nobody's disputing that. You disputed it when you took my access. We took company assets, he corrected. And we can give them back. I don't want them back. That's not what this is about, he said. This is about continuity. You mean dependence? He paused. When he spoke again, his voice softened. You owe this team something. I gave them everything while I was there. You owe me, he said. The edge slipping through. I put you in that position. I trusted you. You trusted the results. I replied, not me. That feature didn't happen without us, he said. It didn't happen without me either. Silence stretched. Then he tried a different angle. We can revisit the termination, adjust the terms, make this right. You already did, I said. You showed me exactly how you see me. Another pause. Longer this time. Emma, he said quietly. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I'm not, I said. You are. I ended the call and set the phone face down on the table. For the first time since the meeting where everything changed. I felt steady, not victorious, not angry, just clear. He had fired me thinking that would end the conversation. Instead, it was the moment he lost control of it. The first renewal didn't fall through, it paused. Maya texted me late that night. Enterprise client wants to delay signing. Legal review, I didn't respond. The next morning, an email thread landed in my inbox by accident. Someone had forwarded it without checking the recipients. My name was still cached in an old distribution list. Subject line, risk exposure review. One message stood out. We need clarity on system ownership and continuity. An investor wrote. Who can operate this independently? Another replied. We were told the knowledge was distributed. A third came in minutes later. It isn't. My phone rang. This time, it wasn't Richard. Emma. It's Daniel, the voice said. Daniel had been an advisor during our early funding rounds. He sounded tired. I won't keep you long. You already are, I said, but gently. They're asking questions. He continued. Hard ones. About what? I asked. About why no one else understands the system you built, he said. About why leadership thought access was the same as knowledge. I leaned back in my chair. And what did they say that you were replaceable, he said. That everything important was documented. I let the silence sit. Daniel cleared his throat. They're requesting an external audit, codebase, process, termination timeline. That won't help them, I said. No. He agreed. It won't. A notification buzzed on my screen. Another forwarded email. Support escalation. Client concerns. Language carefully chosen. fear tucked between bullet points. Is there anything you want me to pass along? Daniel asked. Yes, I said. Tell them I didn't leave gaps. I left boundaries. He exhaled slowly. They're starting to understand the difference. We ended the call. An hour later, a message came through from Richard, copied to the board, polite, formal. Too late. We are confident the situation is under control, he wrote. But confidence wasn't what the investors were asking for anymore. They were asking for proof. Human Resources reached out 3 days later. Emma, the woman said, introducing herself as Karen from compliance. Her voice was careful, practiced. We'd like to schedule an exit interview. I already exited, I said. This is different, she replied. There were procedural concerns. Concerns about what? I asked. A lack of transition, she said. Questions about authorization. About whether proper steps were followed. By whom? I said. She paused. By leadership. That word landed heavier than anything Richard had said all week. We're reviewing potential process violations, Karen continued. In light of recent developments, the company is prepared to discuss amended terms. Reinstatement, I asked. Consulting, she said quickly. Temporary, paid, limited scope. So you want access, I said. We want cooperation. I gave you that when I worked there. Silence. Then, we believe this can be resolved. It already has, I said. Karen lowered her voice. Emma, between us. This escalated faster than anyone expected. It escalated the moment I stopped being useful, I replied. Another pause. Richard feels this has become personal. It was always personal, I said, just not for me. She cleared her throat. Is there anything you want on record? Yes, I said. Please note this clearly. I slowed my words. Not for effect, but for accuracy. You didn't fire me because I failed, I said. You fired me because you were afraid I didn't need you. Karen didn't interrupt. You mistook control for leadership, I continued, and access for ownership. When the call ended, I didn't feel relief. I felt finished. An hour later, an internal memo circulated. Leadership changes under review. External audit approved. Communications to clients pending. No one asked me to come back again. They didn't need an exit interview. They already knew exactly what had gone wrong. I didn't announce that I was consulting again. I just answered emails. The first one came from a founder I'd met years earlier. We need help stabilizing a release, he wrote. Short term, clean terms. We spoke for 20 minutes. He didn't ask about my last job. He asked how I thought. You keep ownership of your process, he said. We don't touch what isn't ours, I agreed. A day later, Maya called. Not from the office, from her car. They suspended him, she said. Suspended who? I asked, though I already knew. Richard, effective immediately. I closed my eyes and listened to her breathe on the other end. They said it was temporary, she added. Pending review. Reviews take time, I said. They're already pulling threads, she said. Contracts. Termination approvals. Who signed what? I didn't comment. Another call came that evening. Daniel again. 2 investors withdrew. He said, not quietly. Because of the system. I said, because of leadership. He corrected. They said they don't fund companies that confuse possession with competence. I let that sit. Are you okay? He asked. Yes. I said, and meant it. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt lighter. I hadn't set out to expose anyone. I hadn't warned anyone. I had simply stopped holding everything together for people who believed that meant they owned me. That night, I closed my laptop at a reasonable hour. No alerts followed. No frantic messages. The world didn't end. I sent one final invoice for my new contract and archived the thread, somewhere across the city. A company was learning how much it cost to mistake silence for stability. I didn't watch it burn. I walked away. The final email arrived on a quiet morning, copied to a list longer than it needed to be. Effective immediately, it began. Richard Hale has been removed from his leadership role. Below that, a second paragraph followed. An internal review confirmed violations of termination procedure, access governance, and risk oversight. New policies are now in place. My phone rang seconds later. It's done, Daniel said. His voice sounded older than the last time we spoke. They didn't fight it. They couldn't, I replied. They wanted a statement from you, he added. Something neutral. I've already said everything that matters, I said. He paused. For what it's worth, you handled this with more restraint than most people would have. I wasn't trying to win, I said. I was trying to leave clean. After the call, a message came through from one of the investors I'd met only once. We've exited our position, he wrote. We don't invest in people who think they own other people. I read that line twice, then closed the email. I didn't feel relief. I felt alignment. Everything had finally landed where it belonged. Later that afternoon, Maya stopped by my place. She didn't sit down. They're rewriting everything, she said. Access rules, ownership language, even how they talk about talent. Good, I said. She studied me. Do you miss it? I shook my head. I miss who I thought they were. When she left, I opened my laptop and logged into my current project. Clean contract, clear boundaries, mutual respect. I didn't take anything back. I just stopped holding everything together for people who mistook proximity for ownership. Power does not come from control, titles, or access. It comes from knowing when your value is being exploited and having the courage to step away without burning yourself down to keep others warm. I was fired 7 minutes into the new vice president's first board meeting. Let me stop you right there, she said, cutting clean through my sentence. Her voice was calm, practiced. This presentation isn't necessary, I looked up from my laptop. 14 people sat around the table. Board members, legal counsel, senior leadership. All of them froze. I'm sorry, I said. She didn't hesitate. You're fired. Security will escort you out. The words landed flat, like she'd rehearsed them. No warning, no performance review, no private conversation, just a public ending. Someone inhaled sharply. Another board member shifted in their seat. No one spoke. I glanced down at the bouquet resting beside my chair. White lilies. Simple. I had picked them up that morning on the way in. They're for you, I said, nodding toward the flowers. The new vice president blinked. Excuse me. Welcome gift, I added. First day. Her jaw tightened. This isn't appropriate. Neither is this, I said. Gesturing to the room, she folded her arms. Security. 2 guards stepped into the doorway. I could feel their eyes on me, waiting. My name is Sarah Whitmore. I have worked at this company for 9 years. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I closed my laptop slowly and stood. Before I go, I said, meeting her eyes, check your email. The board will meet in 2 hours. A flicker crossed her face. Annoyance, confusion. That won't be necessary, she replied. This decision is final. I smiled. Just enough to make her uncomfortable. You can fire me, I said. Just not today. The room went quiet again. Not awkward quiet. Alert quiet. I picked up my bag. The guards hesitated, unsure whether to move closer or step back. No one told them what to do. As I walked out, I heard the board chair clear his throat. Hold on, he said. What email I didn't stop. The story you are about to hear is a fictional work created by the writing team at Revenge AITA. While the characters, events, and company in this narrative are fictional, the situations are inspired by real workplace conflicts involving power, integrity, and accountability. Each story carries its own message and resolution. I reached the hallway before my phone vibrated. One notification, then another. I didn't read them yet. Some things are better understood once everyone has the same information. Why did everyone assume I would apologize instead of prepare? I heard it in their voices long before that meeting, the tone people use when they think you'll smooth things over. Sarah, you're always so reasonable, Ed had said the week before, leaning against my doorframe. You'll help her settle in. I help problems settle, I replied. Not people. He laughed, like I was joking. I wasn't. I was never a climber. I didn't chase titles or linger after meetings to make sure my face was remembered. I didn't play politics because I didn't need to. When the system broke, they called me. When clients threatened to walk, they sent me in. When something was quietly on fire, I put it out and went back to my desk. That was my role, invisible until necessary. Sarah, can you take a look at this, Sarah? Something's off in operations. Sarah, legal needs context before they escalate. I gave it to them, every time. During our last product delay, when 3 contracts were on the line, the chief financial officer had called me at 9 at night. If this goes wrong, he said, we lose more than money. How much, I asked. About $200 million over 3 years. Then stop guessing, I said. Send me the terms. I didn't save the company with speeches. I did it with clauses, timestamps, and process. With knowing when something could move and when it couldn't. That's why she misread me. In her mind, I was compliant, useful, quiet, someone who would absorb pressure and say thank you for the privilege. She leaned on that assumption the moment we met. I expect flexibility, she'd said in our first private conversation. No resistance. I expect documentation, I replied. No ambiguity. Her smile tightened. People like her hear that as defiance. People like me hear it as survival. By the time she decided to remove me, she wasn't eliminating a problem. She was clearing away something she didn't understand. And that misunderstanding was already working in my favor. What if the real mistake happened before she even walked into the building? The email arrived 2 weeks before her start date. No greeting, no introduction. Send me a clean overview of the numbers, she wrote. I want to make the transition look strong. I replied the same afternoon. I can send the current projections, I said. They'll reflect our actual timelines and recognition rules. Her answer came 10 minutes later. I'm not asking for inaccuracies, she wrote. Just smooth the presentation. Move a few things forward. Delay a few expenses. Optics matter. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. I called her instead. I want to be clear, I said when she picked up. Our revenue recognition policies don't allow that. She exhaled, sharp and impatient. Sarah, everyone does this. I need the board confident on day one. Then confidence has to come from facts, I said. Not rearranged ones. Silence. Then a softer voice. I'm trying to help you, she said. You don't want to start on the wrong side of me. I'm already on the right side, I replied. Of the rules. She hung up without saying goodbye. An hour later, another email arrived. Send the revised version by Friday. I answered in writing, carefully, professionally. I can't do that. Any adjustments would need audit review and board approval. I didn't add anything else. No explanation, no apology. I forwarded the exchange to my personal archive and tagged it with the date. Not as a threat, not as leverage, as a record. At the time, I didn't think it would matter. I assumed she'd drop it, learn the culture, adapt. People always underestimate how much damage one email can do when it's written too early and read too late. By the time she decided I was a problem, the fault line was already there, quiet, documented, waiting. And she had no idea she'd stepped on it herself. Disagreement didn't turn into disloyalty all at once. It happened the moment she closed the door. She didn't sit behind the desk. She leaned against it, arms crossed, already impatient. I've reviewed your materials, she said. And I'm concerned. I stayed standing. About what? Exactly your posture, she replied. You push back. You question direction. I clarify scope, I said. That's my job. She smiled. But it didn't reach her eyes. I need alignment, Sarah. Then put it in writing, I said. So we're aligned on record. The smile disappeared. This doesn't need to be formal, she said. We're having a conversation. Conversations get forgotten, I replied. Documents don't, she straightened. You're making this difficult. I'm making it clear. She stepped closer. I was hired to change how things work here. That includes you. Then outline the changes, I said. And the authority behind them. Her jaw tightened. You don't trust me. I trust process. She laughed once, sharp. That's the problem. You hide behind it. I rely on it, I said. Because it protects the company. She turned away, pacing once before stopping. Let me be direct. Are you with me, or are you in my way? I didn't answer immediately. If you're asking whether I'll follow lawful direction, I said, yes. And if I'm asking whether you'll stop resisting, she pressed. I'm not resisting, I said. I'm documenting. She stared at me, calculating. Then her tone softened, dangerously. Let's not make this adversarial, she said. Send me what I asked for. We'll keep it between us. Send the request in writing, I said again, with legal copied. Her face hardened. That won't be necessary, she said. Then neither will my compliance. Silence stretched between us, heavy, final. When I left her office, she didn't call after me. She didn't need to. I could feel the shift already. The moment tension turned into intent. From that point on, I stopped being an obstacle to manage. I became something to remove. It wasn't the firing that proved intent. It was everything she did before it. The first message came to my team early Monday morning, not through me, not through human resources. Effective immediately, it read. All project approvals route directly to my office. Maya, one of my senior managers, walked in holding her phone like it was evidence. She copied everyone except you, Maya said. Is this real? It's not valid, I said. Forward it to me. An hour later, another message followed. This one sharper. If timelines slip, accountability will be reassessed. The vice president wrote. Non-compliance will have consequences. Maya swallowed. That sounds like a threat. It is. I said. She hesitated. Do you want me to respond? No, I said. Save it. By noon. 2 more directives went out. Budget reassignments, staffing changes, all bypassing protocol, all bypassing me. Jonah, a project lead, called from a conference room. I put him on speaker. She told me to remove 2 analysts. He said, no documentation, no review. What did you say? I asked. I asked for approval from human resources. He said, she said. If you need permission to lead, you shouldn't be leading. Did you write that down? I asked. Yes, he said. Word for word. Email it to yourself. I said. Then send it to me. There was a pause. Is this going to blow back on us? It already has. I said. We're just making sure it's visible. Maya leaned forward. She's trying to isolate you. I know, I said. And she's doing it fast. That's how you know she's afraid, I replied. Another message arrived while we sat there. Short, public. Sarah is no longer the point of escalation. I didn't respond. I opened a folder on my desktop and dropped each message inside. Dates, times, names. Maya watched quietly. What do we do now? I looked up. We keep everything. From that moment on, the pattern wasn't just behavior. It was evidence. Power overplayed itself the moment she chose an audience. The board meeting resumed like nothing had happened. I was standing again, my laptop open. The same slide frozen on the screen. Continue, the chair said. I didn't get a sentence out. I'm going to stop this, the vice president said, turning toward the room. This role requires decisiveness, and what I'm seeing is obstruction. I closed my laptop. Sarah Whitmore, she said, louder now. You are terminated, effective immediately. Security will escort you out. A murmur rippled across the table. Not agreement, hesitation. On what grounds? Asked Thomas. The board chair. Performance, she said. Cultural misalignment. Do you have documentation? He asked. She smiled. Thin? I don't need it. The general counsel, a woman named Elaine, who rarely spoke first, set her pen down. You do, actually. The vice president turned. Excuse me. Termination of a senior director requires either documented cause or board approval, Elaine said. Neither has occurred. I was hired to lead, the vice president snapped. I won't be undermined. You're being questioned, Thomas said. Not undermined. She looked at me. Say something, she said. Defend yourself. I met her gaze. I don't need to. Her eyes narrowed. This ends now. No, I said. It escalates. She laughed. You're already out. You can fire me, I said evenly. Just not today. The room went still. Elaine leaned forward. Sarah, are you indicating there's information the board should review before any action is taken? Yes, I said. It's already been sent. The vice president's confidence wavered for the first time. What did you send? Thomas checked his phone, then looked up. Elaine's expression changed as she scanned her screen. We need to pause this meeting. This is absurd, the vice president said. Security? Not yet, Thomas replied. Everyone stay seated. I picked up my bag. As I stepped away from the table, no one followed me. The guards remained where they were, unsure. Behind me, Elaine said quietly. We're moving into review. I didn't turn around. Whatever today meant, it had already begun. The email was already drafted. I had written it the night after her first message to my team, then left it unsent. I opened my laptop and checked the recipients one last time, the board, legal counsel, and the audit committee. No assistants, no intermediaries. The subject line was plain documentation for immediate review. Elaine's voice echoed in my head from earlier. If there's anything relevant, it needs to be shared now. I clicked send. My phone vibrated almost immediately. Thomas texted first, received, then Elaine, reviewing, do not delete anything. I stood in the hallway outside the boardroom, my bag still on my shoulder, through the glass. I could see the vice president pacing. Her phone pressed to her ear. Elaine stepped out and motioned me closer. "Walk me through it," she said quietly. "Pre-start pressure to adjust numbers," I said. "Written refusal. Multiple directives issued without human resources. Threats made to staff. All documented." "Any recordings?" she asked. "One." I said. I was a participant. She nodded once. "That helps." Inside the room, the vice president raised her voice. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see the shape of panic. She was no longer addressing the board. She was trying to regain control. Elaine went back in. The door closed. A minute later, Thomas came out. "We're suspending the meeting," he said. "Stay nearby." "I'm not going anywhere," I replied. Elaine reopened the door and addressed the room. "Until further notice. All personnel decisions are paused." The vice president turned sharply. "You can't do that." Elaine met her stare. "We already have." I checked my email again. 3 more replies had arrived. Short, direct, serious. The system had shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just enough to make sure no one could pretend this was still under her control. Power looks loud when it's unsure of itself. Real authority doesn't announce anything. I walked past the reception desk without stopping. My badge scanned green. No alarm, no pause. The guard glanced up. "Everything okay?" "Sarah, yes," I said. "I'm stepping out." He nodded and looked back at his screen. Behind me, voices rose in the conference room. Not a debate, a scramble. The vice president's tone had changed sharper, faster, trying to regain ground that was already gone. Elaine caught up to me near the elevators. "Stay reachable," she said. "Don't forward anything. Don't delete anything." "I won't," I replied. She hesitated. "This may take a while." "I know," I said. "I'll be close." As the doors opened, I heard the vice president through the glass. "This is outrageous," she said. "I was hired to make decisions." Elaine's reply was even. "You were hired to follow process." The doors closed. Outside, my phone buzzed again. A message from Maya. They told us to pause all changes. Everything. I typed back 1 line. Good. I didn't rush. I didn't look back. No one followed me into the lobby. No escort. No raised voices calling my name. Across the street, I stopped and checked my email. Another message from Thomas. "Please remain available." I was inside the building. She was still explaining herself. Still arguing. Still assuming volume could reverse what documentation had already set in motion. I took a breath and stepped into the afternoon. The quiet felt earned. By the time I reached the corner, my badge still worked. My job still existed. And the only person waiting under scrutiny wasn't me. Silence had done exactly what it was meant to do. Losing authority happens quietly, one permission at a time. The first call came that evening. Elaine's voice was measured, professional, effective immediately, she said. All of her approvals are suspended. She's not to direct staff, access financial systems, or represent the company externally. Understood, I replied. The next morning, interviews began. Maya went first. She called me afterward, her voice steady but tight. They asked for timelines. Exact words. I gave them everything. That's all they need, I said. Jonah followed. Then 2 analysts. Then someone from finance I barely knew. No one was coached. No one was rushed. Elaine kept me updated in short, factual messages. Interview notes align. Documentation corroborates. No contradictions so far. By midday, the vice president was no longer in her office. Her calendar was wiped clean. Her assistant had been reassigned. Thomas called me just after lunch. She's been informed. He said, informed of what I asked. That she's relieved of decision-making authority pending outcome. He replied, she's not to contact staff. I could hear her in the background then, faint but unmistakable. This is procedural overreach, she said sharply. I demand to address the board. Thomas didn't lower his voice. You already did. In writing. There was a pause. The kind that lands when someone realizes argument won't move anything. She keeps asking who initiated this, Thomas added. And I said. And we keep telling her the same thing, he replied. The process did. By the end of the day, a single internal notice went out. No names, no explanations. All strategic decisions are temporarily centralized under board review. Nothing dramatic followed. No outbursts. No final confrontation. Just access removed. Meetings canceled. Authority dissolved into procedure. I closed my laptop and set it aside. The system didn't punish her loudly. It didn't need to. It simply stopped responding to her at all. Winning didn't look like applause. It looked like an email. Elaine forwarded it to me late in the afternoon. No preamble, no softening language. Following the conclusion of the investigation, the vice president has been terminated for cause. Effective immediately. That was it. One sentence. Clean. Final. Thomas called a few minutes later. "We'll issue a brief internal memo," he said. "No details. No spectacle." "That's fine," I replied. "You're reinstated," he added. "Full authority restored." I thanked him and ended the call. The memo went out before the day ended. It named no one. It explained nothing. It simply stated that leadership responsibilities were reassigned and operations would continue as usual. People stopped by my office quietly. Maya stood in the doorway, hands folded. "She's gone," she said. "Yes," I replied. She nodded, relief crossing her face. "I'm glad you stayed." "So am I," I said. No one congratulated me. No one needed to. The work resumed, steady and familiar. Meetings returned to their normal rhythm. Decisions moved again, properly documented, properly reviewed. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt intact. That night, I packed the bouquet I'd never given and left it on the reception desk. White lilies, still fresh, no note attached. This wasn't revenge. Revenge needs witnesses. This was timing, restraint, and rules doing exactly what they were designed to do. Before I shut down my computer, I wrote one line in my notebook, something I wanted to remember long after this stopped feeling personal. When someone tries to force you to choose between your integrity and your job, choose your integrity and let the system carry the rest. Silence, used well, can be a form of strength. Documentation is not aggression. Waiting is not weakness. Power doesn't disappear when it's abused. It just moves to the person who knows how to wait.